di waxyaabo badan, business idea wax saas camal mar ma ii sheegto horta.
Hello. Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to all the participants. On behalf of Malaysian Invention and Design Society Minds, I would like to express my gratitude to all the registered participants who attend our webinar on design thinking today. Minds was founded in 1986 and is the largest body in Malaysia representing individuals, universities, and companies which pursue excellence in invention, creativity, and industrial design. Minds' mission is to encourage Malaysians to be creative, inventive, and advise, guide, and assist in the utilization of their inventions and designs. Our main activities include International Invention, Innovation and Technology Exhibition, ITEX, Malaysian Young Inventors Inventors Competitions, and Arts and Creativity Exhibition. Please check out our latest events in the website www.minds.com.my. Minds has organized several webinars in the past few months. So today our webinar is titled Business Value Augmented Design Thinking. The objective of this webinar is to give clear understanding to all the audience about design thinking and why it is so important. For your information, design thinking is a design methodology that provides a solution-based approach to solving problems. It is extremely useful in tackling complex problems that are ill-defined or unknown by understanding the human needs involved. By reframing the problem in human-centric ways, by creating many ideas in brainstorming sessions, and by adopting a hands-on approach in prototyping and testing. Our speaker for today is Associate Professor Dr. Edwin Chung Chin Yao. Dr. Edwin Chung is the Director of Knowledge Transfer and Commercialization at Talis University. Previously, he has also worked in some of the recognized organizations as a design engineer, IT manager, program manager in Intel, senior R&D engineer, senior software engineer in Motorola, and in NEC. He has completed his bachelor's with first class honors major in electrical computer system engineering. He have done his thesis entitled Synthesis of Hazard-Free Self-Time Digital Circuits from Life-Safe Simple Signal Transition Graphs. Without further ado, I would like to invite Associate Professor Dr. Edwin Chung to deliver his presentation. Dr. Edwin, over to you.
Thank you very much, Asman. Let me just start by sharing the screen. I hope you can see the screen all right. Okay. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
I can't hear your voice.
Oh, you can't hear my voice? Oh.
No sound.
Is this one okay? Asman, can you hear my voice? Asman, can you hear me? Hello?
Okay, now okay. All right.
Okay, all right. Something wrong with the connector, I suppose. Okay, thank you all for joining me this morning. I was asked if I could run a workshop on design thinking. I've been working with Minds to promote design thinking as a process for innovation for quite a number of years now. So I presume most of you are either a designer or an inventor or wanting to be one. And this, I think, would be the kind of questions that you would be normally working on in the sense that, okay, I want to invent, what should I be working on? Or where should I focus my time and resources? Or how do I innovate? Or once you are working on something, how do I become more creative? Or in the middle of your selection of choice of design, you will be like, okay, if I were to pick this versus that, what implication would it have further down the road? Or whatever decision that I make now, would it have any kind of market implication in the sense that how would the market perceive it and whether they like it or they don't like it? There are tons of questions that you'll be asking. If you're asking questions like this, then I think this session will be something that you'll find useful. Before I go further into the details, let me tell you where the content. Let me tell you where the content come from. So what you see on the screen is a book. It's a book on the left. Sorry, I hear echo. And an Irishman, a picture of an Irishman at the top and the slides at the bottom. So what actually happened is this. Jim Kelly used to be my supervisor. We were both working at Intel. He's currently the process program manager at Microsoft. He's in Ireland. When I was working with him, this book, The Art of Innovation by Tom Kelly, just came out, and not too long ago. And he was reading that book, and he was working with a lot of people in Ireland who came from IDEO. What Jim did was that he studied what IDEO was doing and what the book was talking about, and he came up with a training called Systemic Innovation for Teams Workshop. And he trained a lot of us in the Asia Pacific region, as well as Intel around the world. And he asked for someone to represent him in the Asia Pacific region. So I said, fine, pick me, train me. He never called it design thinking, and I never knew that the thing he taught me is called design thinking until I came out from Intel and I started teaching this to students, and someone said this is design thinking. Then I went to study it further, and then I realized, okay, this is design thinking. It's a modified version of design thinking that literally comes from Jim Kelly. So design thinking, and if you think about design thinking, to me, and as well as those people that is trained by Jim Kelly, we say it is a framework for creativity, design, and innovation. You go and Google design thinking, you'll see a whole bunch of different versions of design thinking. Let me just show you a few. You see this comes from Stanford B School, the current method that they are doing. They start with empathize, define, ideate, prototype, test. And this other one from Think 360 Studio, they got empathize, define, ideate, prototype, test. Very similar, isn't it? And you will also see this. This is one of the earlier version of design thinking in B School and Stanford. It goes understand, observe, point of view, ideate, prototype, test. This is a version that is a little bit later than the book, that The Art of Innovation. The Art of Innovation has got a slightly different version from this. You also have this. Then the question is, what is design thinking, and what is the commonality of all these guys in design thinking? Now, the reason why I picked this graph on the screen right now to show you is that there is this supposedly an expansion and a contraction, and an expansion and a contraction. This is something very typical in design thinking. Empathy is something very common in design thinking. Prototyping is very typical in design thinking. So all of this has got elements of design thinking, and how each one of them is emphasized is different. So I want to share with you the version that a modified version of what Jim has taught us, and it's this. And I'll explain today in this session. I'll be talking to you about this. Now, the way Jim Kelly explained it to us is that he used to start off with horizontal steps that goes understand, observe, ideate, prototype, business value, and over time that straight line became a ring where business value, understand, observe, ideate, prototype, then come back to business value again. I mean, it evolved. It evolved as we apply it, and then we realize, okay, that isn't quite how it is supposed to be. And today, after years of applying what Jim has taught me, and after years of teaching this to students and working with students, I've come to this. And the term, by the way, the term business value augmented design thinking process was not coined by me. It's coined by someone in Minds. I was working, we were going through sessions and talking about design thinking. And then she was in the class a couple of times. And then she said, oh, okay, what you're talking about is business value augmented. I thought that was a brilliant title. So I have been using it since then. Now, the way this thing works, it looks weird. Let me explain how it starts. Yeah, the leftmost tile on the left is your starting point. That's how you're gonna start. Then the phase after that is that you're going to go into an analysis phase, and I show you two tiles. So from the starting point, you could either go to do understand, or you can go do observe. And at this point, understand, observe is like a twin. They are together all the time, but one at a time, more or less. So you go understand, observe, understand, observe. So you keep iterating. You go understand, and then you go and do observe. After you observe, you go back understand again. Or it could be you have an observation, and then you go and understand, and then you come back to observation. So these twins iterate again and again. The key thing here is that your very first priority is business value. I know I have not explained what business value is. After I have described the process, I'll spend some time to talk about what business value is, and I'm hoping that I can convince you the importance of business value. Okay, I said it's the first priority, the initial priority, the first priority. So the moment you take up a project, you go through understand, observe, understand, observe. Your priority is to determine business value. If there is no business value, you stop the project. There is no point in anyone continuing with any kind of project if there is no value in doing so at all. I hope this is clear. And if there is business value, I would kind of estimate what kind of value it is. And if the value is something that I think I would enjoy, I would continue further. And when I continue further, I still continue to do more understand, observe. But the second time that I do understand, observe, it is to derive what I need to get from understand, observe. And that is to understand the root cause or to get an inspiration. Let me explain what it is. If you're trying to solve something, the root cause of that thing that you're trying to solve is important, right? Because if you understand the root cause and you fix the root cause, everything else disappears. Or if you're trying to do something that is like not broken, but you are trying to enable a new technology or a new possibility, you want inspiration. Nothing is broken. There is no root cause for you to look into, but you want an inspiration as to what would leap to the next level. What would differentiate you from someone else? How your technology or your solution or your offering would be now different. So that's the objective of your understand, observe, these twins, understand, observe, right? Once you have your root cause or inspiration obtained, you then go ideate. The term ideate, you can actually look this, it sounds like a make-up name, but you can actually find this term in the dictionary. It actually means something like idea generate. It's like generation of ideas. At this point, what you want to do is that you want to generate idea, concepts, an idea as to how to fix it or how to come up with new solution. Interestingly, when you do the idea stage, sometimes certain question is raised and then you say, I've got no idea. And then you may have to backtrack if necessary. So you can either backtrack towards going back to do understand or to go back and do observation. Whichever way, the moment you backtrack, right? You do understand, observe, until you say, okay, I think I have enough. You go back and ideate again. Yeah. Once you have done your ideation and you think, okay, I think I have the idea that I wanted, you want to prototype. What you want to do is that the idea that you have, before you spend any money building, constructing it, you want to have a test. You actually want to find out how well it works and how it will be perceived. And by doing so, you know the pros and cons of your idea. Is it okay? Again, at the time that you're doing your prototyping stage, you may realize not a good idea. All the ideas are not good. You again go back to doing your idea, or you may say, look, I need to go back to do understand, observe, or so you go back to understand, or you can actually also go back to go and do your observation. So literally, the tiles is the path that you can go back, right? So you from prototype, you can go back to understand, or from prototype, you can go back to let's do more ideation, or from prototype, say, look, let's go and do some more observation. I know at this point, I'm just giving you a rough description. I have got no example to show you, but hang in there. I'll explain what it is. Oops, there is get missing. Now, ultimately, what you want to do is that once you prototype something and you're happy with it, it leads you to a golden solution. That's the end of it. Is it okay? That slide should not have got this gap. It should just come to this slide. So what I'm trying to tell you is that it is just understand, observe, ideate, prototype. But life is not going to be just as simple as just go understand, observe, ideate, prototype, right? And if anyone tells you that is a process is just as simple as 1, 2, 3, 4, I would say that this person has not done it before. How would you be sure that once you do understand, it is complete? How would you know that after you go from understand to observe that it is complete? In most cases, you would notice that there is this iteration that is required. And if you look at the IDEO diagram, the Stanford Uni diagram, they have got this understand, observe, prototype, ideate, prototype, test, right? And then it's got this round thing that lines that indicates that you actually go back to repeat certain steps. So I am not drawing lines. I'm just drawing a hexagon here to show you the path. So let me quickly repeat. You could start off understand or observe, and understand, observe is like a twins. You actually iterate through it. And your first priority is business value. And if you ascertain that there's value to be had, you continue, understand, observe to a point that you have your root cause or an inspiration, at which point you go and ideate, you generate ideas. In the process, if you think that something is missing, you go back and do your understand, observe. But once you generated ideas, you want to prototype it, you want to test it. Yeah. Prototyping is a way for you to evaluate and test your idea. Not good enough, you go back and ideate for more, or if you're missing some information, you go back to understand, observe again. Now, in these 4 steps, there are 2 twins. Understand, observe is a twin. Ideate, prototype is a twin. After you ideate, you have to prototype. You evaluate. Not happy, go back, ideate, prototype again. Ideate, prototype. So again, yeah, you have got these 2 twins. So let me then talk about, since I mentioned that the first priority is business value, let me talk about business value. The question is, where's the money? So the concept of business value, I didn't invent this. This came from Martin Kelly. Let me tell you the history of this method. Martin Kelly used to be the global director for IT innovation and research at, he's no longer in this position. He used to be in that position. Now, I was a member in his organization, and we call it the IT Innovation Center. The IT Innovation Center in Intel is literally like a technical sales operation. And what we do is that we actually come up with solution for industry. And once the industry adopt our solution, they end up having to buy tons and tons of server from us. Now, how would a CIO or IT manager justify buying a lot of hardware when usually they are viewed as a cost center? So what Martin Kelly did was that he came up with the concept of business value as a tool to help CIO, IT manager justify the expenses that they have. So then it's just a tool to help these people justify for the purchases. And it turns out that the method is very sensible, and that there is a way to do calculation. I'm not going to go to the details. We don't have time to go through the details as to how do you do the calculation. following what Martin Curley did, David Schwartz, all of us are from the same organization before, David Schwartz wrote a book called Measuring Business Value of Innovation of Information Technology. Now, what David did was that he quantified all those terms that Martin Curley mentioned into formulas that you can calculate. Formulas that is from Accounting 101. Very smart, these people. Why they do that is that they could literally calculate business value, and you could actually give this to an accountant. The accountant will say, yes, I can approve it. So the way we used to work in Intel is that when we work on a certain project, we actually calculate the business value and we get it certified by our finance people, because the formula that we use, the term that we use are from accounting. And by doing so, they can actually approve that our project has brought in how many million. I can tell a story later on if we have the time. Yeah. So anyway, question is, what is business value? To cut the long story short and to cut to the chase, business value is defined as benefit expressed in dollars and cents. Okay. Okay. Let me give the explanation of what this means in the form of an example. Sonic. Sonic is a restaurant chain in the US. You can like most of the like a McDonald's, right? You could actually park your car, go into the restaurant, and then have your meal. But the way Sonic works is that you can eat in your car. It could be that Americans are so lazy that they don't even want to walk inside. They just want to eat in a car, or maybe even in pandemic time, it's actually a good thing. So the way it works is that you park your car and there's a panel next to your parking slot. You make your order, someone come and deliver it, and the tray is attached to your window, and you can just have your meal. That's how it is. So the restaurant, the way the kitchen is, you take your order and someone is going to come out and deliver your food. Let's just say this: if you're one of the people serving, right? You're one of the people serving this customer. Assume that as a server at one of these restaurants, you are paid. Let's assume that there is some basic salary, but on top of that, you are paid 50 cents per customer. So you deliver food to your customer, one of them, you get 50 cents. And on average, let's assume that you can serve 50 to 70 customer per shift, right? You take one shift. In that one shift, you do about 50 to 70. So you make about $25 to $35 per shift on top of your basic salary. Doesn't sound much. And when I had some recent discussion with some students from Johor, they also say, okay, that doesn't sound much. The interesting thing is this: because the parking space is pretty big, then what happens is that you see someone wearing a roller skate so that they can get to this car and back to the restaurant faster. And by doing so, now let's assume you can now serve 100 to 130 customers per shift on average. The question would be, what's the benefit of the pay of roller skate to you as a server? The benefit would be, it allows me to serve more customers, right? So from 50 to 100, that's $25 extra. So by quantifying in dollars and cents the benefit of the roller skate. So the benefit of roller skate is that it allows you to travel faster and it allows you to serve more customers as a result. And by quantifying it into dollars and cents, $25 more per shift. That's the business value of the roller skate to you as a server. But what is the benefit of the roller skate to the restaurant? Now, because one server can now serve more, I don't have to hire that many as a restaurant. So the benefit of the roller skate to the restaurant is that I may need to hire less. Let's say per shift I used to hire, let's say 7. And as a result of roller skate and everyone becomes more efficient, there's higher output. I don't have to hire 7, I hire 5. So the additional basic salary of those 2 additional that I don't have to hire anymore, that's the business value to the restaurant of the roller skate. I hope this example is clear. So this slide is just me saying what I've just said just now. The benefit of the roller skate expressed in dollars and cents to you as a server and to the restaurant owner, that's what we call business value. Now the term business value, sometimes we argue about it. Why must it be business? Why can't it be social value? And all of us who apply this technique keep saying this. It's actually just value. It's just dollar value. I don't care whether it's for business or it's not for business. I could do something where it benefit a society or it benefit some community. It's just not business. However, every time we construct a sentence, it appears nicer if we use there is a term before the value. So instead of just saying value, so we just say business value. Today, some people want to change the business term to social value, or community value. Whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. It's just a term, and generically we just use the term business value. Let me give you an exact example so that you further explain the term business value. This is a real picture, by a project worked by one of my students a number of years ago. He come from Sabah, and his parents run a bakery. I believe this picture is from Sabah. His uncle also runs similar bakery. So this business has got factory in Sabah, it's got factory in Semenanjung, and the issue is this. So this boy, an engineering student, working on a project, then say, can I work on a project related to my family business? I say, yes, go ahead. So he described this. If you look at what these ladies are doing, essentially what they're doing is that the bread are all sliced, and all the sliced bread on the bench that they're working on, then they pack it. So you see the other lady on at the far back, right? Carrying 2 loaves of bread. What she's doing is that she's putting uncut, unsliced loaf of bread into the slicing machine, and once it comes out, they stack it on the bench and 8 additional ladies. That's what the student tell me. They have to hire 8 additional people just to pack. And because this become a bottleneck, they could not pack fast enough. Instead of producing 800 loaves of bread that the factory can produce, it has got the capacity to produce 800 loaves of bread. It can't. Because if they produce 800 loaves, they can't finish packing it. So they have got no choice but to reduce it down to 600. The question is this. So this is the bottleneck. You have to hire 8 additional crew just to pack it, and you are limited by this bottleneck, and you cannot produce 800. You can only produce 600 loaves of bread. The question is, if we solve this, if there is a way of getting rid of this bottleneck, what is the value to the project? You see, when we want to work on a certain project, remember I said the initial priority is business value. So when you look at a project like that, the question is this: okay, the bottleneck is costing me these 2 forms. 1, add additional headcount just to do packing. Second one is that it limits my capacity. So this thing costs you money. And if there's a way of getting rid of this bottleneck, it would eliminate these 2 costs. That's what the student wanted to do. Okay, so if there is a way to solve this bottleneck, then in theory, the 8 additional staff is not required. So the cost of hiring this 8 additional staff is gone. So that if you think of it from the business point of view, if they can solve this bottleneck, the value to the business is 8 additional headcount cost eliminated. Second one is that if it allows you now to produce 800 loaves of bread, and assume that you can sell it, the revenue from the additional 200 loaves of bread is additional revenue to you. So the value of solving this is these two parts, at least these two parts, the cost of hiring the additional worker, as well as the additional revenue from the additional 200 loaves of bread. You quantify this into dollars and cents. If the number is significant, you work on a project. If the number is not significant, don't care. You know, is when it comes to innovation, when it comes to inventing things, right? You have to be very money-minded in the sense that why bother spending time on things that is not going to bring you any kind of reward or benefit. Let me pause for a little while. Yeah. The reason why I think like this is that for me and many people like myself, the definition of innovation is the creation of value. So if I want to innovate, to me, it would be about creation of value. If I'm not creating value, I'm not innovating. That's where we're coming from. Yeah. Okay. I hope this is clear. And again, this text is more like a note, so that when you read it next time, you understand what it is. So the value is just the additional ad, the cost of the additional stuff, and the 200 loaf of revenue from 200 loaf. Let me give you another example. I use this example because I want to explain something else in a later time. These are the stem from a banana tree. You know that banana tree, they it fruit once, and once it fruits, and once it doesn't fruit anymore, the stem will not fruit anymore. You have to chop off the stem, and it's waste. And for every ton of fruit that you produce 2 tons of debris, 2 tons of waste. This waste material or debris rots, and being organic, it actually it has got emission that it emits greenhouse gases, and it damages the environment. If you can put a dollar value to the amount of emission that comes out from every ton of debris, you can also put a dollar value to these hazards that we have. Okay, then the question is, if the value is large, you may want to work on it. Okay, so today you can go and Google this. This is not new technology or what have you. Go to the website called Banana Text, and they've got lots and lots and lots of information about banana fiber. If you look at the picture in the top middle, there is a banana tree, and once the banana tree is chopped off, right, the stem have got fiber. They actually put it through a machine where they extract the fiber. The fiber is then processed. They dry, they process it, and then you can make paper, you can make fabric, and I've seen people making rugs, people making clothing, people making paper, and this fiber is so fine that it can make very, very good quality cloth. So the cloth then can go into being assembled into other products. And the beauty of this, like cotton, is that it's biodegradable. So by coming up with this solution, not only are you, the question is, what's the BV, right? If you work on this and if you've got this solution, the stem that was previously producing carbon, this emission that damages the environment disappear. So whatever cost that is associated with it disappear. 1. 2, because you got this technology of producing fiber from the stem, you actually employ, it's now a new industry and you would employ people, right? So it has got value to the community that is employed. Now, the factory that now have the technology of producing paper or producing fabric or producing threads or what have you, now this technology now becomes value to these businesses, right? And the people that buys this and produce goods, again, they got value there. One other value is that once the final article is disposed of, because it's biodegradable, it doesn't damage the environment. Again, there's value there. So you see the entire chain. Again, this text is more like notes for you, so that subsequently when you read it, you remember what it is rather than just image. So this brings to the point if you look at any kind of project that you're working on, where are the common source of value? So one is that if there is a challenge that is costing you money, like the bottleneck in the factory, or like the emission that comes out from the debris from your banana farm, right? And if you were to solve it, the cost that is associated with those challenges disappear. So if you solve the bottleneck in the bread factory, whatever cost that was incurred because of the bottleneck disappear. That's the value. Okay. Second one is that a solution that improves productivity. The Sonic restaurant as an example, roller skate, you become more productive. That's also another source of value. Making certain things possible that was previously not. The banana stem used to be thrown away, and then you now have a technology where you could actually produce fiber out of it. Now you are employing people, so there's another value. So making things possible that you want that was previously not possible, that also have another source of value. Upcycling is also a form of value in the sense that what used to be a waste is now a product. It is also a form of value. There's, upcycling is a very nice word, and the way we tend to say it in Intel when I was there is that, we have a joke. We always say that turning chicken shit into chicken salad, but that's what it actually meant. What was meant to be thrown away, but now it has got some kind of a value. I think upcycling is a nice new word, not so dirty to mention. Okay. I think this should give you an idea as to what business value is. Let me give you a few examples. These are cases that I've learned over the years, either at my university or at another place I cannot mention. But this is a real case. I used to consult for others also. That's how I get some of this data. There's this university, let's just call it University X. And when we were going through the enrollment data, when we went through the enrollment data, we are analyzing, right? So this is the understand stage. We are going through data to understand. It is very common for you to get about 30% of people that walk into your campus to inquire enrolling, which means the conversion rate is about 1/3. Let's just say 30%. Out of every 10 people that walked into your campus to talk to you, get more information, 3 of them would enroll. And then it was noticed that the conversion rate for UEC students is less. It's about half of them. It's about 16%. This number are actually real in the sense that one of the projects I was working on, I was consulting, 31% on general and 16% for UEC students. Then the question was, why is that? So again, understand, right? The analysis, you go down deeper, and what they found is that it is because UEC student, the people who is doing the checking and the enrollment would then tell us that UEC students don't meet the English requirement. There's a certain requirement for English, and they don't meet it because they came from a Chinese system, and not all of them can speak good English. Not all of them attend English. Some of them are so Chinese that they don't have good English, and they cannot enroll, not allowed to, because they don't meet the requirement. So what's the potential value? So if you were to want to work on this project, what's the potential value? So then you would convert, if I can find ways to increase the 16% for UEC student up to the 31% or nearby, so another 15%. If I can increase that number from 16 to, let's say, to 30%, right? The additional student that you bring in has got it literally means revenue, and it literally means business value to you. Okay, and if this number is small, don't care. If this number is big, you want to work on it. So let me tell you the story of this this project that I used to work on. We found this, and then we thought, okay, What's the solution? You remember, understand, observe, and once you've understood the root cause, you actually want to ideate for solution, right? So they toy with a few things, and what they did was that they say, fine, we come up with a program where the students, not those marginally not meeting English or those that doesn't have English at all, attend English intensive English class. They pay for it. That's fine. However, if they pass their English test, they enroll, and whatever they paid for, whatever they have paid for in their intensive English is given as a credit. So it incentivized them. And what happened was that in that one semester that this university tried, the business school got so many more students that it brought in an additional 2-point-something million. You understand the concept, right? Again, design thinking not even applied to the full yet could bring in 2+ million in a semester. Let me give you another example. This is my case. This is my student. Yunkit has his own business right now. He used to be our student. And the man, fairly chubby man, he's now the head of School of Engineering at TELUS. So Yunkit was in my design class, semester 2 at that point in time. And when we were giving out projects to everyone, he says, "Sir, can I work on my own project?" I said, "What do you want to do?" He said, "I want to build a car." A semester 2 engineering student who just barely out of high school want to build a car. I was like, "Okay, can you do it?" He says, "I can." Now you can look at his face that he can't, but he said, "I can." I walked away and I came back. Then he said, Can I? I said, "How much do you want?" He says, "I want 5,003." I was like, you'll be very lucky if the university give you 200 ringgit to work on a project. 5,300 is more than the fees that he would pay for that module. There is no way I can approve it. Okay. Now, without checking with my boss, I said yes. You may be looking at me as, "Are you crazy?" And I believe that at that point in time, my boss would be also thinking, "Are you crazy? What are you thinking of doing?" Now, what happened is this: when I said, "Can you do it?" he said, "Yes, I can." And he turned around his laptop. There was a technical drawing that looks like a chassis of a car. So he's got the frame in a particular manner. And I said, "Can you really do it?" He says, "I can." In my mind, it's like, okay, I don't think you can, but there is a possibility that you can. It looks like you've done your homework. You could even tell me 5,300 at a snap of finger when I asked you. So I said yes. Without checking with my boss, I said yes. Now you can question me. What is the thinking? The thinking is this: yes, I'm gambling. But from the sign that he has given me and the article he has shown me, it looks as though he has done some homework. So there's a very good chance that he can do it. Now, if he built a car, and if this car were to bring me one student, how much would that one student bring to the university? A lot of money, a lot more than 5,003, many times more. So I'm gambling. So I said yes to him. And the picture you see here is the first car that he built. This car has brought in students. We know because students actually took picture with it and so on and so forth. And we'll talk about burden of proof shortly after this. So that's how I use business value in my own work as well. Yeah. Okay. After that car, what he did was he built this car. This car was national champion 2010. The gamble paid off, right? Because I'm betting on a guy that I think I can bet on. And he subsequently built this car. By the time I think when that team built this second black car, they went to compete in Australia. They didn't win. There were many issues. And the interesting thing is that that was the time that there is the first Malaysian team that has got a student racing team, right, with a ranking in the world. You know, when the gold car on the left won, we were ranked number 1 in the country. Subsequently, many other issues, team issue, and we did not maintain our position. And then they went on to build a two-seater. So that gamble. Now imagine how many more students this 3 additional car has brought in. People actually join the program wanting to join the team because they know that there is a racing team and they are very interested in racing. They're very interested in car. You understand where I'm coming from in terms of value and how we do make decision making. So I allude to the term burden of proof. This term is borrowed from a legal term, burden of proof. You have to substantiate your claim. So if you look at what we do in the initial stage, when we do understand, observe, I said the initial priority is business value. You ascertain what the value is, and you use that to determine whether you want to go forward or not, right? That is only an estimate of the value. You're projecting the possibility of that value, okay? But it is yet unproven at that point in time. Even after you implement the solution, it is not proven until you show proof that how much value it actually brings back to you. So the concept of this burden of proof is that once you propose a certain project to someone, there is still a burden to prove that it actually brought in that value. If you are an inventor for yourself, once you come out with a solution, you still need to prove to yourself as well as your potential client and your customer the value that it can actually bring back to you or them as a customer if they were to buy your solution. So that's what burden of proof, this concept of burden of proof in business value is. So as an example, burden of proof for the bread factory, right? After you implement a solution, it must lead to a real reduction in headcount. It must lead to a real increase in production and subsequently revenue to you. Am I making sense? Because you cannot just say, let's do this. And once you do it, no change. If there is no change, if the bread factory, after they implement a solution, if there is no change in headcount, no change in, then it's got no value. Am I making sense? So you look at banana fiber, for instance, there must be a real reduction in the waste that you produce and hence the emission, right? You can calculate it in the sense that how many tons are now being removed from the dump. Per ton, how much emission you would produce. So depending on how much wastage you has removed from the dump, then how much emission you has reduced, like that. And emission, you can put a dollar value to it. So then there you go. It gives you a business value. There must be a real quantifiable increase in employment in the industry. And if it is so efficient that you hire only 1-2 people, then there's not much of a difference, right? But if you end up hiring hundreds of people or thousands of people, then the social value becomes a lot more. Am I making sense? UEC, again, if the solution that you put in place result in an increase in conversion rate for the UEC student, then it's proven. Then that will ultimately lead to revenue coming in. And the student project, there must be a real increase in enrollment. Yeah, so that's, again, burden of proof. So an hour in, I want to close on what we talk about for business value. The source of value is when you solve something that has got cost associated with it. And the moment you solve it, the cost associated with it is the value. You use it as a means to predict what the value is. A solution to make things more productive, that's also a source of value. Making things that was previously not possible, that potentially also has a source of value. Upcycling also has a source of, these are not the only area of value. There are many other areas as well, but I'm just giving you an example of some of this area. Burden of proof. When you talk about business value, burden of proof, like a twin, is always there. You must have that. Otherwise, you don't close the loop. There is no way for you to prove that whatever you're suggesting actually brought in that value. Yeah, because the initial estimate is just an estimate, it's a projection. The actual proof of the value of your solution has to come in later on. Okay, so let me then now, an hour in, let me now move to continue on the process, design thinking process. So we talk about this. Now, when you look at the chart, I believe you would have a better understanding as to how to interpret it. I mentioned that the first two stage, understand, observe, is a twin. And this is analysis. You can say analysis phase, you can say information gathering phase, inspiration gathering phase. You enter into that phase. Each understand itself has got its own tools. It's got its own technique. Observe has got its own tool and its own technique. For me to talk about observation in details, I need 1.5, 2 hours, which we don't have. So I'm just going to touch on it so that you can have an understanding as to what it is. But today I'm just going to talk about the two of them as twins, because you tend to do this together anyway. And like I said, we do first priority, business value. Now, let's talk about understand. I like to use this image because every time when I go to an understand stage, my mindset is like this. When I get into a project, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. I want to make sure that I've got all the pieces ready. And I would try and make sure that I got all the pieces of data ready, like a jigsaw puzzle piece. And if I feel that some pieces is missing, I'll go get it. Okay. Again, let me go through this in the form of an example. If someone were to assign you a project, what would you do? So imagine right now, I'm going to assign you a project, right? The question would be, how would you respond? Correct? There's some interaction required. I'm not sure, not too sure how I'm going to do this. So I'm just going to give it a try. Let me give you a simple assignment. Let's say I want you to go and collect a letter, and the assignment goes like this. The detail of the assignment goes like this. Tower 2, level 35, conference room 3515. What goes through your mind at this point in time? If any one of you want to unmute and give a response or type it on a chat, let's do it. I need this interaction because I need to influence your mind. Anybody want to volunteer and say something or type it on a chat? No? Okay. So Vina, which tower, which building is this? Don't know, right? What kind? Okay, so Peshu, you say what kind of letter? It's just a letter. It could be. It's just a small envelope, some kind of letter. Yes, exactly. So where do you go from there? Good question, right? So now that you have think about it and some response from me, you're a bit smarter. Let's try a second one. Now I want you to go and collect a parcel. Menara Wells, level 2, lot 2.6. Ask for Daniel. So this location, lot 2.6 at the well, used to be a pen store. And the pen store has moved to SS2. So now I'm telling you, it's at Menara Weld Shopping Center, level 2, lot 2.5. You go ask for Daniel. I ask you to go and collect a parcel. What goes through your mind? Or full name, Daniel Lai, I suppose. Who am I receiving parcel for? You are receiving parcel for me. Size of the parcel. So is it something small that you can actually go with a motorbike, or do you actually need to go with a van, right? More details. So the content of parcel, we can say whether you need to know or you don't need to know. We can argue that, right? So you can always say that, do I need to be very careful? Is it fragile? You ask questions. So the understand phase is about getting all, remember I said jigsaw puzzle, right? So then it's like, I want to make sure that I have all the information so that I can go and do my job properly, right? Okay. Why am I collecting it? Because it's a job. I'm asking you to do it. Next one. Let's say, let's say I want you to deliver a gift to Alison Russell. I used to work with Alison Russell in NAC Australia. This is the address, 65 Jalan BU 3 Socks. This is just my wife's auntie's address. What goes through your mind? Alternative recipient. Okay, because it could be a surprise, right? When, correct? Yeah. So you ask question like, is this going to be a surprise? Do I hand to her or do I talk to someone else? And so on and so forth, right? You notice that it's all about me playing this game with you. Is all about getting you to be curious about making sure that you have all the information before you take the first steps. Okay. When we work on projects, that's what we need to do. Last one. I think it's the last one. Yes. I want you to deliver a car, Brett Hoskin. Again, Brett we used to work together in Adelaide. 20 Jalan Rahmat Batu Pahat. This is the way you need to go. I give you the key to the car. I give you a touch and go card. And then your toll is paid for. Tank is full. You can go all the way there. What time? Where to meet? Ask all the people. Insurance coverage all taken care of. When to deliver? Okay, you want to know? You want to know, Brett? Why? I do not know your full name. How do you get back? The moment you are there, you start thinking about, I want to deliver the car, but what about after I deliver the car? How am I going to come home, right? Am I? The entire purpose of this game is to make sure that you realize that when someone gives you a project, ask all the information so that it is clear. Now, why? Let me tell you a story. Many years ago, I was working with a startup in Shah Alam, and out of the blue, someone from the HQ came to me and said, "Can you go to Sweden?" I said, "Who is paying for it?" They say, "Someone else is paying for it." I'm going. So I went. Because they are paying, the trip was difficult. They arranged for this thing. I flew to Frankfurt. There was a 6-hour gap. I wait in Frankfurt airport for 6 hours, didn't come out. It's like there's no additional budget for me. Then flew to Motala in Sweden. I've got no idea where I need to go. I just got a certain address and took a taxi to that place. That place turns out to be an office. Then someone said, you're here, and took me to a hotel. Blur, blur. They took me to a hotel. I stayed there. I said, tomorrow morning I'll come and pick you up. Tomorrow morning I was at the lobby of the hotel. He picked me up, took me to a factory. Nokia Autoliv. They are making the electronics for the airbags for Proton. And I thought my job was just like how you guys were assuming certain things when you were playing this game for the first time. My job was to do the technical support for the meeting. So I sat in a meeting. Because I was a technical guy. In the middle of the meeting, they said, "Come, we'll show you." I was like, "Okay, whatever you want to show me." Brought me to the factory, the production line, where they were making all this electronics board for the airbags sensor. And they showed me this machine where the electronics board got deep into this kind of like a clear liquid, and it comes out. And all it does is that it protects the entire electronics to be waterproof. That's it. It seals the entire thing so that you're not going to get corrosion. You're not going to have any issue with water because it's not epoxy. You can still see the entire item. It just looks like a plastic wrapping all over the entire electronics. When I came back, headquarters asked me, "Can we do it?" I said, "Do what?" They said, "Can we implement the machine here?" You see, I went all the way to Motala, Sweden. I didn't even have any kind of holiday. Just went there, 5-hour meeting, and back. The moment the meeting was done, they drove me to the airport. I came back to KL, and it wasn't clear. They didn't tell me what my task was, and stupid me, I didn't even ask what it is. Why am I telling you this story? Is that I want the story to. I'm hoping that story will stick with you, so that you don't repeat the kind of same foolish mistake I made, where I suffered through the whole trip for a 5-hour meeting and back and didn't know what was required of me. You understand? You don't want to embark on a project and then not realizing. Hence, we emphasize BV at the very beginning. It is so important that we actually mention it. You see, this process, right? Frequently is mentioned as a term because it's emphasized. Why the emphasis on BV is that it's so important, you must do it. The other things as to what to collect, what information to collect, is common sense. and understand is the part where you collect all these things, right? Let me give you another example. Let's play this game. It's a race against time. Right now, you are at Terminal 7, JFK International Airport at Queens, New York City. Okay, your task is this. I want you to go to the city of Paris and then to the city of Melbourne and back, right? At each of this city, I need you to take a photo evidence of yourself being there, a selfie of yourself at a monument somewhere. Okay, I give you a credit card for whatever you need to do. And your reward is this: $1 million minus the time you spend in hours, right? What would you do? Think about it. You are at JFK Terminal 7, all kind of counters there, you can buy your ticket. You got a credit card, no limit. You start thinking, okay, let's plan. How do I get to city of Paris? How do I get to the city of Melbourne? What kind of evidence do I need to take? You start thinking like that, right? So chances, because we are not having a face-to-face, chances is that you guys think like a lot of my students, they take the credit card and they do all kind of funny stuff with it. Chances is that you want to fly to city of Paris in France and maybe take a picture with the Eiffel Tower. Go down to Melbourne and you would be thinking, okay, what is a building in Melbourne? It could be that you go to Flinders Street Station. Is the most common picture that shows that it's Melbourne. Take a selfie of yourself over there and then come back. But what I would do is I would fly to the city of Paris in Illinois, USA, and the city of Melbourne in Florida, USA. A bit of a shock. Even when you're told city of Paris, we all assume there's only one city of Paris, but apparently there's more. You may sound like a long-winded person and say, is it this city? It's better safe than sorry. You understand what I'm saying? So in the understand stage, it is about seeking clarity. It is about gathering information that would allow you to make informed decision. This stage looks simple, but it is very important. Let me give you an example, real example from my own students' project to give you an explanation, right? So when Taylor's University first started 2010, parking is horrendous. Virtually not enough parking space, right? So everyone complained. It appeared in the newspaper, it appeared in social media, everywhere. So what the student did was that, okay, they want to work on this as a project, fine. And the wanting to work on a project is triggered because they notice the difficulties of having parking. This I notice is an observation. So this whole project is triggered by an observation. Okay, it wasn't a project given to them. You understand? So a project can be triggered because of an observation. That's why I say from the understand, observe. You could either start with understand or you can start with observe. And in this case, it starts with an observe. So once they say, okay, this is an issue that we can work on or we want to work on, then what happened is that they can't, for them to ascertain business value you can project estimate, but there was also management wanting to find solution for it. So they already knew that there is business value. Okay. I mean, students may stop coming simply because it's too difficult to park, it's too or whatever. Then you may lose kind of revenue. So management are thinking of how to find solution to this. So what the team did was that they went to facilities management and then talked to them about parking. And they found out how many parking zones are there that the university have access to, including neighboring land that was loaned out to them or they rented. So that's, again, understanding, they're collecting information. And then they ask questions like, okay, what's the capacity of this piece of land or this area? This understanding, right? Now, collecting the data is insufficient. They actually went and do observation. Observation in a sense that they say, okay, you got parking zone A. They say it's got how many hundred. They actually went and do an estimate. Okay, roughly If you say 300, it's roughly 300. You don't have to be precisely there, right? Or this parking H, they go to H and then have a look and say, okay, the data tell us has got 600 spaces. Do we see 600? So the observation also used to confirm the data that is collected. Subsequent to that, what they did was that they conduct a survey with staff and students. They ask the questions, how do you come to campus? So some say I drive, some say I take public transport, some say my parents drop me, some say I walk, I just live nearby, some say I carpool, what have you. So they collect this information. The other question they ask is that what time do you normally come to campus? What time do you normally leave? They're just collecting all this information. Understand, right? They want to know more. And then they then project whatever they have onto the, they collected about 300 samples. And then they want to project this. At that point in time, the campus has got 12,000 staff and students. They project it from that 300 to 12,000. And what they found was this. I'm just simply drawing something. Normally in a face-to-face class, I would just draw it up. They know that there's a certain capacity, the blue horizontal line. And they know that because people come at various times, right? And when they project it, the demand for parking would have got this bell-shaped curve. Interestingly, what they saw was that they said, oh, if that's the case, round about the time about 10 a.m. and round about the time about 4 p.m., they actually see people actually queuing up, waiting for a space in the parking space, right? So they see the queue forming round about 10, and they see the queue dying off round about 4. And this then confirmed to them that the data they have is correct. You understand what I'm trying to say? So at this point in time, the understand observe portion is gathering all this information until you have an understanding of what the project is all about and how do you want to deal with it, right? So in the understand observe phase, understand phase, right? We have got this thing called finding root causes, right? The technique I want to share with you is called 5 whys. 5 whys is invented by Sakichi Toyoda, the founder of Toyota. You can call this technique 5 whys. You can call this technique cause and effect chain analysis. But what it does is that it is a technique that helps you go towards finding the root cause. Now, if you are familiar with Ishikawa diagram, it's very similar, except that there is no category to lock you in. There's no category to guide you. And generally, I prefer this method. So the way it works is that, let's take it as an example. When I flick on the switch, the bulb failed to light up. I may say, okay, why? Because there's no electricity. Or it could be because the bulb fuse is broken. Okay. Then I can go and, the observation portion comes in, I go and check. Let's just assume that the bulb is actually not working. So there's no electricity. Then you ask the question, why is there no electricity? Oh, because the connection to the bulb is loose. Or it could be because you forgot to pay a bill and it has been cut off. Or it could be because the fuse at the main board is blown. Then you go and check. Is the bulb connection loose? No. Let's say, assume, right? Have you not paid your bill? Is there any electricity coming still? Assuming that that's all good. They say, okay, you check and the fuse is blown. Then the question is, why is it blown? Okay, there's an overcurrent, or there's something else. You understand what I was saying? You just keep going backwards to a point and say, this is the root cause, and if I were to fix this, everything else would be gone. Am I making sense? So if you do understand observe, once the business value is SC10 and you continue to do understand observe, you want to find either root cause or you get an idea of what is going on. So clearly the parking example that in campus that I've given you, the root cause is there is not enough parking. There's no capacity, right? So okay, we hang in there. I'll try and give you something clearer. So once you understand what's the root cause and the inspiration, you go and ideate. Ideation is where you do brainstorming. The term brainstorming is very generic. Yeah. So let me dive into brainstorming or ideation. Now, there are actually 3 phases in ideation. Ideation is just not like you jump in, brainstorm, get an idea, that's it. It's not. It actually about 3 phases. The first phase is define and sharpen focus. I'll explain this in a short while. Then the actual brainstorming or the ideation itself. The last stage is that you do some kind of assessment of all the ideas that have been generated. Whether you keep them or you throw them away or you modify them. Okay, let me explain what define and sharpen focus is. The best way to explain define and sharpen focus is as follows. If you take a gun, you put a bullet inside, cocked it, you point north, let's just say, you pull the trigger, you will never, because you're pointing north, your slugs would always be in a northerly direction, not east, not west, not even northeast, northwest, right? It's north. If you're pointing more or less north, it's not south, definitely. Am I making sense? The reason why that is that you're pointing in that direction. Why am I telling you this? If you structure your question or your chat, your focus for the solution is in a certain direction, the solution, the idea you generate is in that direction. It'll become clearer when I give you an example afterwards, right? So, and the way you phrase the challenge segment has to be one where it is not too loose, not too narrow. Very hard to explain what this is. And if you ever need to understand how this is done, hire someone to facilitate your brainstorming session. Bring someone who knows how to do brainstorming. Go through this with your team 1-2 times, and then you'll realize, this is what it means. I could not put a criteria that the moment it meets this criteria, I've never been able to find it that, you have a challenge statement that is properly defined in the right direction or proper direction. It's a bit of an art that best that you can get someone to guide you. There's a question, Vina asked the question, could there be a bias in understand observe phases? You can. For us working in this line, right, we have to be, excuse the term, bloody honest with ourselves. If you are not honest with yourself, you are only cheating yourself. It's got no benefit to you. The bias, if you're not aware of it, actually makes you steer you away, either because of your preference, or usually it's our preference, right? You have a preference for a certain kind of solution, or it could be your fear of going towards a certain technology or solution that you don't want. Okay. So let me continue with this define, sharpen, focus. I think it's clear. If you define the challenge in a certain way, you'll find solution in that direction. Okay, so, we'll come back to this in a short while. Techniques, there are tons of techniques. I have got a book that says 101 methods, thinking techniques. But I give you a few here, and we'll talk about one. Hopefully it'll be of use to you. Brainstorming, very common. Random association. Random association is a very subtle technique that is the engine of all this brainstorming technique. Brain writing, Napoleon technique or perspective, lateral thinking, lotus blossom, and there are so many more. The person who invented brainstorming, his name is Alex Osborne. He didn't call it the Alex or Osborne method. He just called it brainstorming. He comes from an advertising agency where he wanted to find ways to get his people more creative. And he says this, if the reference to the place where he talked about it is in this Applied Imagination book. I don't think you can buy it anymore, but if you can find it, that's where it is described. He said it's performed by a team of 6 to 12 people. It's not a meeting or discussion, and there's a method to it, right? So my question to you is this. If I were to ask you if you have brainstormed before, chances is all of you would say you have brainstormed. Now, if we are having a face-to-face session, and if all of you are even shy to say I have brainstormed before, I will ask the question, who have not brainstormed before, and no hands will come out, which means all of you would have brainstormed before. So I can assure you all of us have brainstormed before. The question I have for you is this: what's the rule for brainstorming? You're saying there's no rules, anything is allowed, but in real life there is actually rules to brainstorming, and these are the rules, and I'll explain them in turn. Here, I just need you to remember the image, and when you remember the image, you remember the rules. Okay. In your notes, I just organize it in a different way. So the first one is defer judgment, sometimes called suspend judgment. Defer as in you keep it to a later time, or suspend in the sense that right now you don't do it. So so the very first rule of defer or suspending judgment is that there's no judgment. Second one is that you encourage wild idea. Any idea, the more wild it is, the better. You actually encourage that. The third one is that you build on the ideas of others. You see, the first three rules are done in such a way that it promotes new ideas. You don't judge, you encourage wild idea, and whatever idea that was given, you build on top of it, right? You build on the ideas of others. The fourth one says quantity, not quality. You defer judgment. Why do you care about quality at this point in time? You just want numbers. The other reason why you would want numbers is this. Statistically, generally we say this: out of every 1,000 idea, 100 of the ideas are prototype. Out of the 100 ideas as prototype, 10 of them would be pilot or trial. Out of that 10 pilot or trial, 1 success. 1,000 to 1, 1,000 raw idea to 1. However, to be honest with you, studies have gone into this, and they found it is something like 3,000 plus to 1 idea. So the more idea you have at this stage, the higher the chances of you producing a successful result is good. So why we defer judgment, and why we encourage wild idea, why we build on the ideas of others, and why we have got this rule for quantity, not quality, is because of that. Yeah. The last rule is you remain focused. Now, if you've done a lot of brainstorming, you will realize that when you go brainstorm and you are encouraged to go wild, what happens is that you will go further and further and further away from the actual objective itself. You have forgotten. I can give you an example. I was facilitating a team in Philippines many years ago. They had this issue with hard disk. So all the hard disks in a company contains intellectual property, and they have to get rid of the intellectual property before they give the laptop away. So in a lot of cases, they actually give the laptop without a hard disk. But there's like accumulating hard disks that they've got this big pile of hard disks. They need to destroy it. So they were brainstorming for a way to destroy data in the hard disk. So then encourage wild idea, right? So they start talking about the magnetic material. Then someone went into food, and then they went into more about food, and they went so far away from the food. In the food direction, they've forgotten that they are talking about the disk and the data in the disk. Then someone said, hey, wait a minute, it's the disk. You have to come back, right? So it is so important, and because of the high tendency of us moving away from the primary objective, that remain focused is a rule for brainstorming. So these few rules, these 5 rules, right, for brainstorming is the primary rules. When I taught this at Petronas, they said we have to have number 6. I say what it is: no rank. Now, they work in an organization when let's say the GM comes in, or the senior GM comes in, everyone is scared. Whatever the GM say, everyone follow. So they want to have this concept that everyone, when they brainstorm, no rules, everyone is the same. So even a GM or senior GM or VP that brainstorm together with them at that session, don't care. The rules is no rank. So it works for them, and so they introduce this additional rule. So if it works for you, also consider doing it. Now, we have rules, but how do you actually do brainstorming? Brainstorming is like this. If we actually have a face-to-face session, I would do this with you, where I ask you to volunteer a challenge to solve. And then we actually go through and define the statement. I write the statement and ask all of you, is it okay? You notice that people will ask question like, what do you mean by this? We refine it, we keep refining it, we refine it until a point where we are all happy with that statement. And then away we go, we start brainstorming. So the brainstorming usually is like this. You set a duration for the brainstorming. It could be half an hour, it could be 40 minutes, 45 minutes. I can tell you, with a very intense brainstorming session, you are exhausted after 45 minutes. And I can tell you, if you were to do this regularly on a weekly basis, I guarantee you will lose weight. The brain use so much energy that if you do intensive brainstorming session, I guarantee you will lose weight, right? So we tend to do something like this, half an hour. And then I have a target. The target is like this. I would say, I want to generate, you got 30 minutes, right? Then I say, I want to generate 2 ideas a minute. You may think 2 ideas per minute, no big deal lah. Not easy. In the beginning, ideas come easy. But towards the end, it's like, you don't get an idea in 1-2 minutes, you know? So generally, I ask people 2 ideas a minute to start off with is okay. But if you think you are good enough, 3 ideas a minute, if your team is good enough, right? 3 ideas a minute, 4 ideas a minute, if you can. It is quite possible. So I would set a time duration. I would set a target in terms of number of ideas per minute. Then you multiply the 2 and you get the total number of ideas that that's your target. I would assign one person as a timekeeper. The timekeeper keeps time, how much time they have left, 1. Also keep how many more ideas to the target is required. So the timekeeper is actually very important, because the timekeeper every now and then will say 5 minutes more, how many more ideas? And then it would rush you if necessary. Then in the old time, I say old time in a sense that long time ago, before post-it notes, there is a scribe. You actually appoint a scribe. The scribe actually writes it on the flip chart or on the whiteboard or on the blackboard or what have you. Today, we don't do that. You get the 3-inch by 5-inch post-it notes, and everyone get a pack of this, and everyone get a Sharpie. You don't want to write with ballpoint or pencil. It's very hard to read across a certain distance. So it's usually a Sharpie or a marker pen, broad enough, and the 3-inch by 5-inch post-it notes. And every one of you have this. So you write your idea, and you stick it on the wall or on the board, and you explain what it is. You put a number to it. So the first person that goes there, stick it, explain it, put number 1. I explain why that is. Second person, then write the idea, stick on it, write number 2. When you explain it, it triggers idea in others. The other people quickly write on their post-it notes. Are we okay? And then you got number. So the number is placed as, imagine that you have a board of like 135 ideas on the spread all over the board. And then you say, you know, that idea looks good versus that idea 79 looks good. This is a painful lesson, or a lesson that IDEO learn and they share around the world, that you number your idea. Post-it notes is good because I can move them around. I can group, I can take all the post-it notes that is of the same category, I can bucketize them. So we use post-it notes. So you would notice that post-it notes, pictures of post-it notes, right, commonly appear for design thinking. And that's because we do a lot of brainstorming and we use a lot of post-it notes. Okay, then you go, time starts, and then it's like a rapid fire, right? You write, stick. And in a session where there is no laughter, something is not right. It cannot be a quiet, it's not a discussion. It's not a quiet sit down conversation. No, it's like, I've got this idea, is this, and then chances that you go, ha, 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 and then someone say, no, it's like this. That's how a typical brainstorming session is like. Okay, so there are certain questions. I'll come back to the chat afterwards. Yeah. Now, how there is a method upon which we can actually trigger our brain to be very active in terms of brainstorming. Yeah. So I'll tell you this method is called random association. I'm not sure if we have time. Let's try this. Get a piece of paper. I give you a bit of time. Get a piece of paper, and then we're going to play a short game. Is it okay? Get a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil, something to write on that piece of paper. And we'll do a game. I'll show you what's on the screen in a short while. And what I want you to do is that I want you to write down as many things you can see with your physical eye as well as your mental eye. Now, if you do not know what mental eye is, it doesn't matter. Just write as many things as you can see with your physical and your mental eye. Is it okay? If you're ready, I'm going to start this. You get 1 minute. Is it okay? So let's start now. Ten seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, stop. Okay. Would you believe that? I mean, if you can write that fast, you can think of all these things. Then the question you have for me is that how? When I see a fast-looking car, I say fast. That's one term. Remember, it's just whatever ideas that you have, you throw out. When I think about something fast, I think about Italian. It could be because of the car that they produce, right? That's the mental side. It's not what I see physically anymore. So I say it's Italian. Fast also triggers the idea of a Formula One. Formula One triggers off the idea of a rich man, because it is a rich man sport, right? That line of thinking stops. I go back and have a look. I saw the tire. Then it triggers me. It's rubber. Now, my mom used to be a rubber tapper. She used to tell us story about rubber tapping and things like that, right? And so it triggers the thought of fertilizer. It triggers the thought of rubber tapping. It triggers the thought of latex. If you've been to one of those places, right, you remember the smell. So she used to describe how early she has to wake up to go and do rubber tapping, and the smell and the tough life. That line of thinking from the tire disappear. You see, I said physical eye as well as mental eye. The physical triggers off memories, and the memory part is the mental eye. Then I said I can't see anything anymore. It goes to the alloy. So then the alloy wheel. So it's lightweight. Then the entire wheel as itself is got low profile. Low profile has got grip. It's got soft compound, hard compound. It got all those things, right? So I used to play this with a bunch of German students on exchange, and I mean Germans like to drink, no? And so I gave an example of a mug, and the moment they start thinking about mug and a beer, they start describing a pub. So it's the same thing here. Whatever you see allows that other part of your mind to trigger off other things. Are we okay? So because I cannot get response, I cannot say how many of you have more than 10, how many of you have more than 5. So whatever number that you have, keep it. Let's do one more. Okay, we start now. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, stop. Okay. How many of you have more? Meaning this second round with just a packet of chocolate versus a car that's got many items. How many of you can write now more items than the one before? Wow, Stephen, 50. Wow. More, right? Vina, just raise your hand. And so you would tend to have more simply because now you know the technique of random association. Random association, you know, we always have we're always talking to ourselves, right? And one thing triggers other things, That's how we are randomly thinking. That's quite natural for us. So random association is quite natural for the way we are thinking. So now that you know this, when you do brainstorming, the moment someone says something allows this random association to pop up and to activate it. And as long as you activate it, you start popping up new ideas and you will realize it's quite easy to brainstorm. Yeah. Next question is this. Any of you cannot stop thinking? You can either do a raise hand or type on a chat. No? Okay. Very good. Or you're not saying. If you cannot stop thinking at this point in time, I have to apologize. I do not know where the off switch is. There is no way of switching it off except when you're tired. Okay, okay. Let me go. We are kind of short of time, so let me move on quickly. Now, if you do, before I do that, Dr. Boy has got this question earlier that says that what is best? Is it the subject to the brainstorming notified the team before the okay? So this question is like this: do you tell the team coming to brainstorm what they need to brainstorm at that point in time, or do you tell them ahead of time, let them go and do some homework, or what is it? Now, a number of organizations has done this study, and one of the study, I think it was IDEO that did IDEO or someone that did this. What they did was this: something to brainstorm, and they bring 3 teams together. One team given the topic ahead of time, and then they have to do some homework before they come to do the brainstorming the following day. The second team comes in on the second day, given the topic, and they brainstorm cold. Just jump straight into brainstorming. So team number 1, some homework before brainstorming. Team number 2, they get the topic, they brainstorm. Team number 3 goes to a toy store before brainstorming. You can say toy store before, during brainstorming, doesn't matter. Okay. Now, who do you think would do better? The one that prepared? The one that went to the toy store? What has got toy store got to do with anything, right? And the toy store always win. The reason is this: the frontal cortex, I do not know which part is which part. You're being creative, right? The frontal cortex portion is actually very important. The top part of the frontal cortex and the bottom part of the frontal cortex does different things. I cannot remember which is which. One of them is very creative. One of them prevents you from being creative. Let me explain. If you're in a social situation, you may control yourself and say, you don't say things like this because it's not socially appropriate to say things like this. So there is a part that inhibits, there's a part that goes crazy. Okay. And in a brainstorming session, the part that inhibits, you actually want to stop it. You don't want it to be active. The one that goes crazy, you want it to go crazy. That's how you become crazy in terms of, when I say crazy, I mean it in a good way, in a sense that you come up with all kinds of funny ideas. And the funny idea is a good starting point that can lead to something else. Am I making sense? So when I was a consultant for Petronas, every time we have a brainstorming session, we have things that we play with because it triggers. Some people are very needs the touching, right? So they need to play with things. Some people need to walk around. So whatever your needs is, you go and do it. When we are stuck, we go downstairs, toys are ours, and we play with toys. And sometimes because the toy plays with certain principles, you say, I could use this principle, go up, brainstorm. Again, you get funny stuff. Sometimes, crazy as we come down, we are stuck, do not know what to do anymore. We go downstairs, we watch a movie. Literally, you pamper your brain in such a way that you will produce, it performs at its best. That's what you want brainstorming for. This interesting story was, we don't pick whatever movie we go to. We just randomly pick a movie and we go in. Like your toy store, you don't pick the toys. You see whatever it is, you play with it, right? So there was once we went to a movie, randomly bought some ticket. It was a horror show. It was so horrible. We all scared stiff that when we went upstairs, we couldn't brainstorm. So yes, random movie, but perhaps not horror movie. So, okay, Brainwriting 635. This is by the German. Say if you are brainstorming, this is no different from brainstorming, right? But the way I describe it, someone come up with an idea, write it on, stick it on the board, explain, give a number. It's the same. Now, in cases where there are people in a brainstorming session, especially senior bosses, right, who steers the direction of your brainstorming session, you don't want it. A senior boss may say, I like this idea. Then what you notice is that a lot of people start thinking in that direction. Or if the boss says, I don't think this is good, you see people stay away from that idea because people are scared of offending the boss, right? Now, if you have someone who steers the direction of a brainstorming session, you use this brainwriting 635. What it means is that nobody talks. You have 6 people to a team. You can have, it doesn't mean that you have to have exactly 6. It can be 5, it can be 7, it can be roughly 6, right? Maybe the Germans has to be very precise. I don't know. So the 635 actually come from the 6 people, 3 ideas per round, 5 minutes around. So the 6, 3, and 5 came about like that. So we normally sit around a table. Could be a round table, square table, it doesn't matter. Each one of us given a A4 paper. If we do this 635, draw 2 lines, you end up with 3 columns. Every 5 minutes, I write 3 ideas. You're given 5 minutes, irrespective. Unless all of you are done in 1 minute first round. After round 1, don't have to wait for the 5 minutes, you shift. Now, you go shift left or shift right, it doesn't really matter. What happened is that at the end of 1 round, let's say we shift left. I take my paper, I give it to the person sitting to me on my left. And so is everybody. So the whole paper shift 1 spot, and the guy on my right pass me his paper. I read whatever ideas is written on that paper, let it triggers other idea. I offer again 3 more ideas. Okay. Then end of the round, I shift again to the left until I've seen all 6 or whatever number of papers there is. That's what brainwriting does. This is all style in the sense that like scribing on a flip chart or scribing on a board. They are all on pieces of, or they are all on the 6 pieces of paper. It's very hard to deal with later on. So now people have changed with the advent of things like post-it notes. It's called brainwriting pool, P-O-O-L. Every cycle, I take 3 post-it notes. I write 3 ideas. I throw it in the middle of the table. Start of the next cycle, I randomly pick 3 of them. I read these 3 ideas. I offer 3 more ideas. Yeah, I throw it back into the pool, and then whatever so your 5 minutes round, right? It's like I take 3 ideas, I look at it, write 3 ideas. I sometimes cheat in a sense that the tree paper doesn't trigger off any idea. I take another 3 more because over time the pool would accumulate. So I keep doing that. So every cycle I do that. Now your ideas are all on post-it notes. You can stick it on the wall and you can analyze it subsequently. So this method is to be done in such a way that nobody speaks. So nobody could control the direction. Are we okay? I'm just giving you two methods right now. So at that point, what you would have is that you would have got ideas. From the idea, you would prototype. You have to, if it's not good enough, you have to go back. You actually go back, right? So in your prototype, you would try and analyze the validity of your idea. Let me give you the campus parking example. Define and sharpen focus. Remember the curve I drew for you, the bell-shaped curve with the line. The horizontal line is the capacity. Now, I said define and sharpen focus in the sense that what's the direction? This student asked the question, are we trying to increase capacity, as in that horizontal line, we raise it to a higher level, so you got less issue because more parking, or are we going to drop the bell-shaped curve to a lower level, meaning we reduce parking demand? So they decide that there is no way they can control parking capacity because they actually need approval from the university to go and build, and would the university invest? So they said, look, this is out of control. The only thing that they control is to reduce parking demand. So when they do brainstorming, their brainstorming is about how do I reduce parking demand? So they come up with ideas like, okay, is it possible to have an agreement or find a parking space nearby and then run shuttle between that parking space and campus? Ideas that they have. Or they come up with ideas like carpooling. They come up with ideas like all kind of stuff, right? All about reducing demand, dropping the curve, the bell-shaped curve, to a lower level, so then the number of people affected by limited parking capacity is less. Yeah. So what they did was they said, look, carpooling, and then they wanted to have an app in such a way that they connect people that can carpool together. Then they actually need location where they are at. So they use Google Map as a mean. So they try it drawing on paper. Just on paper, they try it and they say, okay, would it work like this? They have not coded anything. They talk to people, and then from there they decided, okay, they'll do carpooling app. Towards the end, they actually built a prototype app, and they actually trial it with some university students to try and connect them to go and carpool. Yeah, I'm short of time. Let me give you an example of give you more details of prototyping. Someone from IDEO said this. I've forgotten his name now. He said, enlightened trial and error succeed over the planning of a lone genius. So in design thinking, the prototype stage is that you do something, you try it, and then you learn from it, and then you reiterate and you try it again, and then you learn something, and then you reiterate again. So the iteration in design thinking is very common. Okay, a few examples of prototyping. You can do things like mock-up, paper prototype, table simulation, body storming. I just give you a few. This is an example of a project that I worked on when I was in Intel. To cut the long story short, for us to be able to identify an asset is to put an active electronics inside, say like a laptop. But a laptop, the moment you open it up, chances that there is no space for you to put additional electronics inside. So we came up with this concept where the Kensington slot where you used to lock your laptop, you lock actually a device inside. So inside this black item is an active with battery RFID. It actually sends out signal. When you send the right signal to it, it actually sends an ID back. So before we came up with this, right, we did this. It's plasticine. It's my son's plasticine at that point in time. My son has gone to uni now. You see the square. You see the square item on the top. That's the size of the electronic board. One of the round thing on the right side is the mechanism to lock into the Kensington slot. The other round thing next to the lock is a slot for the Kensington slot to attach to. So we came up with one. We take lots of laptops from the office and we say, what if it is this? There's no issue here. What if it is this? Also no issue. And then we found one laptop where there is an issue. And if we have that kind of laptop, we know that we have to fix this. So then once we got the design, when the design came back to us, we cut it on styrofoam. And once we are on the styrofoam, we check, something wrong with the image. We check that the design would still fit into the, that it is next to another USB thumb drive, it is, and so on and so forth, right? So we are creating mock-ups or paper prototype. Paper prototype is excellent for graphical user interface for software. Without coding any software yet, I just draw it out. After drawing it out, I play with the paper as though it's a real application. I'll point onto it, I'll click onto this, and someone will flip the paper, right? I'll give you an example of a case where at one point in time, a bunch of students came to me and said, "Sir, can we have 5 minutes?" Set me on a table, put out a paper prototype, ask me to use the app, play with the app. So I use my finger, I'll click on certain things. At one point in time, I stopped. They asked me, "What are you looking for?" I said, "I want to go back, but there is no button." Then they realized, "Oh, forgot." They just drew on the paper an arrow that goes back. That's it. No coding whatsoever. Now, the moment you prove that the application worked from a paper point of view, then what happened is that you can start coding, knowing that it has been tested already. Are we okay? I'll show you another example. This is Tektronix. They were trying to design their new oscilloscope. And I mean, the electronics behind all these things, they can do. However, the design of the panel and what feature they offer on the panel, they drew it. And they ask someone, "How would you do this?" They say, "Oh, I would do this, I would do this, I'll turn this knob." And when there's actually a video for this where they got one design, and a lot of the users say, which set of button? Because it wasn't clear. But when they change the design, they say, "Oh, okay, I'll do this." It becomes very clear. It becomes very intuitive. So paper prototype is good like that. Are we okay? I know we are almost out of time. I'm almost finished. Like I mentioned just now, in the prototype case for the students working on the parking case, right? There is paper prototype, a car pulling app. And after doing that, they actually fine-tune it into a real prototype software that they trial with some friends to see if it works or not. And by doing that, you actually come to the golden solution. Now, that's all I have. But I actually want to open up for you guys to ask questions instead. And I know there is limited time. I'll stay as long as you got question for me. Yeah. Thank you very much. And I hope that I have not bored you all to sleep. And I wait for your question.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Edwin, for your interesting and insightful presentation. I believe that our participants benefited a lot from your sharing. Now we will proceed with the Q&A session. Before we start, I would like to remind our participants that for those who would like to ask your question verbally, you can unmute your microphone, or you can also type your question in the chat box below. I think we have one question from Facebook, Doctor, from Hedrick Prataban from UTM. Is design thinking just optional guidelines, or we must strictly follow it?
Okay, I'll answer it this way. When you are learning it at the early stage, I say use it as a guideline, simply because you are learning how to apply it. However, once you learn how to apply this, you can literally mix and match. But after years of applying it, even now, right, after years of applying it, I still go in a very similar format as I have just described it. So and hence today, we still call it a framework for creativity, design, and innovation. So it is a framework, but it's not a rigid framework that you cannot do it in any other way. You get what I'm trying to say, yeah?
Yeah, all right, great. So another question from Dr. Stephen Poon. How do the best design increase the revenues and shareholder returns at nearly twice the rate of the industry counterparts?
Okay. So to answer Stephen, first of all, many of us define innovation as the creation of value. The creation of value, if you create value, ultimately in a company, you would see that that value appear in your margin, which means I could produce things at a cheaper rate, for instance, or I can demand more, so my margin actually grow. So the moment you start innovating, or the moment you start creating value, the place where you see an increase is your margin. And when your margin grow, your shareholder values grow, and when your shareholders value grow, your market share, your market value grow. So the growth that you see subsequently in a monetary sense is because when you innovate, you create value, and the value appears in your margin. I'm not sure if I explain. Okay, so Stephen also said this is explicit social mission condition. I think it is social mission. Okay, you can apply this whether it is for a business, a product, or for social. Doesn't matter whatsoever. It's simply a framework for you to tackle something that may appear not easy to understand, or appear there's no theory behind. In a lot of cases, how would society behave? What would help a family in a particular way? There is no theory, there is no formula for you to calculate. And by doing this understand, observe, ideate, prototype, where there is a bit of trial and error, you actually learn and then you fine tune. You learn and you fine tune. And in that sense, you actually find a solution to what you're trying to solve.
Okay, great. We have another question from Facebook, Doctor.
Yeah.
From Miss Louis Wei Ling from UTM. Doctor, where do you get these inspirations or idea?
Okay, we didn't have time to play this game with you. The source of innovation, where is it? If the source of innovation or creativity in us, right, is my ear, I'm just going to massage all day long. If it is my hair, I'm just going to, right? Or if it's my forehead, I'll keep doing that. If it is my nose, I'll keep massaging. If it is my belly, I'll keep massaging it. So where is the source of creativity and innovation within us? And I'm telling you that there is one. Let me give you a hint. It is mentioned that Henry Ford, whenever he has a bottleneck in his factory, he'll find, excuse the language, the two laziest bugger, and he'll put these two lazy bugger in the bottleneck to work on the bottleneck. Why? The lazy bugger wants to be lazy. They don't want to do things, so they'll try and find a solution in such a way that they'll make life easy for them, right? So to destroy it for you, the source of creativity and innovation is our desire. Now, how do I get inspiration or interest in coming out with idea is that I have a desire. I actually make myself to have the desire to want to do better. And by doing that, I have a desire, like the lazy bugger in the bottleneck. I want to try and find a solution that would work. Now, in some cases, I actually mentally do this. If I have to solve something, I may get myself to think that I want to do this for the benefit of someone. I want to do this because I want to create value. I want to do this because I want to be famous. I pump some kind of a desire within me to come up with solution. Now you put anyone in a corner where they have to survive, they'll fight. In the like manner, if I have a desire to want to do something, I will find, right? Why I use the word desire is that desire is very, very strong. So strong to the extent that a person with desire would literally commit crime to satisfy the desire. And hence me using that on myself. So I have to, if I do something, I go through a step where I literally program myself to like it, want it, desire it, and then I'm like in a trance, and I'll produce all kinds of crazy ideas. You practice this long enough, it becomes second nature that whatever you see, now I am saying I have a cartoon in my head. Because it has reached a point where it becomes second nature, I don't have to go through this process of doing this to myself anymore. There's a cartoon in my head. I've gone through this long enough that there's a cartoon in my head. Whatever you give me, there's a funny thing triggering inside. That's how I become, and that's how you could, yeah. Okay.
Okay, all right. So, okay, we have another question from Mr. Emerald with Saxono. How do you train yourself to do design thinking well if you are not used to it?
These are all good questions. When Jim Kelly taught me design thinking, it wasn't presented like this. It was more theoretical. There are certain steps. Sorry, I got muted. It's okay. When Jim Kelly taught me, I went through the process of like, what do you mean? How do you do it? So I was playing with the technique myself. So the question as to how do you become good at it, right? Is practice. And what I want to do is that you know that your peer and your competitor are using some kind of a tool, right? Put this in the form of, let's say, a martial art. It could be a mixed martial art and you're competing, right? Someone is doing something. You better have something for yourself also. Now, I'm not only trained in design thinking, I'm also trained in trees, but I'm trained in design thinking first. And it's the very first art I would use. So when it comes to solving something, I'll pull out design thinking first. But when it reaches a certain point where it's highly technical, I'll pull out trees. So it's not the only, design thinking is not the only tool that I have, but it is about constantly applying it. And it's the constant application of it. And usually with a mentor guiding you and giving you tips how to improve, that you become good at it. You'll not become good at it if you don't apply it. And my beginning stage was, I just keep playing with it. And in a lot of cases, it was like, when I apply it, then I realized, oh, okay, it means this, I can do this, I can do that. So now I can twist and turn. Yeah, but I continue to learn beyond design thinking to other techniques like trees, and so on and so forth. So my top two tools is design thinking and trees. And my design thinking, like I mentioned today, is augmented with business value. I couple them.
Okay. I think we're going to have last question. Is it okay, Doctor, or you want to?
Can go ahead.
Can. Okay. Name Cheong Hoon Seng from UTM. Is it usually better for the solution to be the first of its kind, or the solution to be something that has been existing for quite some time?
So this question is not related to design thinking. This question is related more to business. This is my opinion from my experience. There are people that says be the first. Being the first, usually from a business point of view, is that it may require educating people to understand what you're trying to do. It's not always the case. If you are the first and then you have to spend time, money, and effort to educate people to what you're trying to do, it's a waste of resources. If it's a situation like this, I don't mind becoming the second. Yeah. Now let me give you another example of how you sell your technology. If I come up with a solution for something and I know I'm not going to be the player out there, and I want to sell this solution to someone, do I approach the number one player, or do I approach the number two or number three player? Very similar questions as, am I the first, or am I the second, or am I the third? If you go to the first, the biggest player, chances is that they are making so much money, they are doing so well, they'd say, not interested. But if you go to the second player wants something to kill off the first one, they are more likely to be interested. The third player want to get rid of the second and the first player, they are more likely to be interested, right? Now, to be the first, I'm not saying that it's totally not good. Yeah, in some cases, it is actually very good to be the first, because the first mover has the advantage of capturing market share that is very hard for someone else to come in again. But in some cases, it actually requires you to educate the market. And if that's the case, be the second. So you would notice that when you ask me a question, I don't have a hard and fast, it is this or it is that. It's always, it depends. So it depends on the situation itself. And this thinking of it depends is rooted in design thinking. In design thinking, we don't do anything until we understand. We truly understand. So when you say, is it this better or that better? It depends on what the real situation is and what is the situation is specific to that case. Okay.
Okay, all right, ladies and gentlemen, due to time constraint, we will proceed to the last question. This question comes from Dr. Stephen Poon. Can a business values augmented simultaneously and equally pursue social and economic goals?
Yes, yes. The quick answer is yes. The application of business value augmented design thinking process is applicable in a social setting as well as in a business setting. And you actually see more of this design thinking, whether business value augmented or not, right? Are applicable in a social setting. I think the part that knocks a lot of people off, throw a lot of people off, is that business value augmented and in a social setting, like I said, I put the term business there because when I say value augmented, what value? So you can change the word business to social value. There is no difference. Simply because we take benefit translated into dollars and cents. So whatever social benefit that you have translated into dollars and cents, that's your business value. So the answer is yes, it can.
All right. Dear participants, now we have come to the end of our webinar. On behalf of the Malaysian Invention and Design Society, MINDS, I would like to thank the speaker, Associate Professor Dr. Edwin Chong, our participants, and all those who have, in one way or another, helped make this webinar possible and successful. Your presence and support have been invaluable and is greatly appreciated. To the students and future inventors, I hope you got an overview of the design thinking process. We look forward to seeing all of you again in our next webinar. Once again, thank you everyone and all the best and stay well. All right, thank you, Doctor. All right.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.